What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune into the channel, check out the content. And with that being said, man, I wanna speak on some comments that Charles Barkley made recently about Deandre Ayton, right? And his comments were it was about the fact that LeBron without LeBron James and Luka in there, like DeAndre Ayton should really be scoring as Charles Barkley says, he should be scoring like 40 points a game. Now, I don't know if he should be scoring 40, but I do think that DeAndre Ayton should should really be scoring a lot more than what he's scoring. I think like right now he's averaging like 15 points a game. So if DeAndre Ayton averages 15 points a game without LeBron James and Luka, and then when they get back, his scoring drops. That's not really a good look. Like right now he's supposed to be really dominating and asserting himself, calling for the ball, making sure that like he get his touches when because they're not dead. And so that just goes to show though. And I thought, coming into the season that it was up to DeAndre Ayton to show like how passionate he was going to be and to show people that the narrative that was about him that was wrong and that he had something to prove, right? And so far this season, he's not doing that. And and I always talk about like how basketball players back in the day how they used to be, like as far as whatever it took to help a team out. And you could look at the Celtics back in the day, like the Lakers, the Bulls, any teams from back in the day, the Sixers that had success back in like in the 80s, the Pistons, the role players on those teams, not just the superstars, but the role players on those teams did whatever it took to help the team out for them to win. And that's how like somebody like Dennis Rodman, like his only job was to defend and play defense. They didn't need Dennis Rodman to score. And so he focused on that and he excelled at that. And so every team has somebody, they just had role players and people who played their part. But the thing about it, these guys could not only do what their role was, but like if you need them to score in certain situations, they would score. You know, I've seen Dennis Rodman knock down 3 pointers or hit open jumpers, or flash in the lane and and get a shot. But that wasn't his role. He would do it from time to time, but that wasn't his role. He did what the team needed him to do, and that's how it used to be. Like you couldn't play on a professional basketball team and just do what you wanted to do unless you were that guy on that team that had the green light. And so you wouldn't like DeAndre Ayton, like back in the 80s, he would not have lasted in the NBA like the way he was able to do now. Because you had to be able to help the team out. You gotta be more versatile. Like when you're coming up, if the only thing you could do was score and you couldn't play tough defense, then you wouldn't be in there. You're a liability, and so DeAndre, in my opinion, DeAndre Ayton is playing in the correct era. Like him playing in this era right here has allowed him to extend his career because back in the 80s and the 90s, he wouldn't have been able to play. It just was like I can't see him playing against Lonzo Mourning or Charles Oakley or none of those guys like that. They wouldn't put him on the floor with those guys, Anthony Mason. Because if he can't stand up to Chris Paul and Devin Booker, ain't nowhere in the world, like when Charles Oakley, you know, um, leaning on you, ain't nowhere in the world you can keep your job with somebody like Charles Oakley and Mason and all those guys, man. And I think that what he needs to do, getting back to DeAndre Ayton, is call for the ball, demand the ball, be stronger on the boards, offensive boards and the defensive boards. You know, no way unless Luka is hitting every shot he put up, no way that this he can't. DeAndre Ayton in this day and age, he can't dominate on the boards, especially on the offensive boards. Getting rebounds and putbacks. He could that right there. That right there can get him 10 points. He can get 10, 15 points right there just on rebounds and putbacks. And can you imagine, like on second chance points, man, how that would hurt, your opponent if you dominate on the boards like that? There guys have made a living off of dominating on the board as far as rebounding. And so I can't see, in this DeAndre Ayton, really all rim to rim, just run as hard as you can from rim to rim. And fill that lane, and that right there will create different opportunities for him to score. So I don't I, I do think that when he don't play to his ability, I do think that DeAndre Ayton is hurting the team. And if he's only scoring 15 points in LeBron James' absence, and he only scoring 15 points when Luka is not there, just imagine how much, how his stats and his efforts is going to fall off. And he's a sensitive guy. He's going to get emotional because he's not getting the ball. He's running up and down the court and not getting the ball. I just don't get somebody like these professional athletes today, right? You have to know how to bring more to the court, bring more to the table than just what, like, all right, my coach or my team got to run plays for me. They got to create opportunities for me. And that's just not how it works. Like, you can't draw up plays for, like, for everybody on the team. Everybody in your starting five, you got to have a play for everybody in your starting five. It don't work like that. You might have plays for one person or maybe two. You might have for two people, you got to play, you run plays based on them. But other than that, man, you got to create opportunities for yourself. You got to find ways to help your team and to make your team more successful. And in my opinion, I just think that this guy, DeAndre Ayton, has been in the league for too long not to be able to realize that, not to be in a point where, all right, you want a team to feature, to feature you when you're not somebody who can even score on a consistent basis. Like, even if he was featured, like, all right, we're going to go to DeAndre in the paint, go to him in the paint like 3-4 times in a row because there's a mismatch and we know he's going to get a basket. You can't do that with him, because he scores. He's like an opportunistic type scorer. Like, if they run a play and somebody get caught out of position, he might get an easy basket from that. But like, far as allowing DeAndre Ayton to operate in the paint and create on his own and get a basket, he's not that kind of ball player. At least not consistently. Every once in a while, like I said, if he get caught up in a matchup, in a mismatch, he can take advantage of that. But for the most part, if somebody his size is playing him straight up, he's not going to be able to like dominate like that. So, and that's why they're not going to draw no plays up for him. So if they don't draw no plays up for him, then he's going to have to create different opportunities. So I think that DeAndre Ayton, I agree with Charles Barkley. I just think that he's hurting the Lakers because he's not really playing. He didn't elevate his game. He's not really elevating his game, and so that's going to hurt the Lakers. And the thing about that, when you play with LeBron James and you don't elevate your game, then I think he's setting himself up to be the scapegoat. Everything. I know we probably only about 4 or 5 games into the season, but I think, like, by the time this season comes to, it's going to be over with. I think they DeAndre Ayton, they're going to say he's the problem. They're going to make him the scapegoat. It's not going to be Luka. It's not going to be LeBron. It's not going to be Austin Reeves. It's going to be DeAndre Ayton. He's not doing what he need to do in the paint for us to be able to operate the way we need to operate. He's going to be the scapegoat. And if he wasn't willing and able to step up to this challenge, that he should not have taken this job with the Lakers. He should have went somewhere else. like the Wizards or something like that. You know, a team that probably wouldn't demand as much from him, but he came to the Lakers. I think it just set itself up for to be criticized. That's my opinion. So that's my take on it. Y'all make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment, and I will check you all out in the next video. Peace.